live. But if you miss a session, you'll be able to watch that. A little content warning, we do show some road crashes, nothing too graphic, but just warning you that if that's something that may disturb you, just be prepared for that. Over to you, Emma.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome again. Oh, this is actually my slide as the moderator, but Catherine is actually taking over today and this series, who is a very experienced road safety auditor as well. But I'm the person, as I mentioned earlier, if you have any technical issues accessing the Zoom, for example, or the content on our learning management system Moodle, certainly shoot me an email there. My email is emma.arrow@safesystemsolutions.com.au, and my mobile number's listed there. It's also in the email signature in all the emails that I've sent you already for the program. So certainly shout out if you need any assistance at all. And if you're not able to make a session, as Ken and Catherine have said, it's not a problem at all. Just let me know and I can let Ken and Catherine know as well. If you have any questions or you have any comments during the program, we're using the chat function today because we're using the webinar facility. The cameras aren't on you, so we can't see you. So, you want to be in your pajamas or anything like that, feel free to. We won't be able to see you. If you do want to speak, sometimes there may be an opportunity. If you press the raise your hand function, we'll be able to turn on your microphone so you can actually speak and we can hear you. But otherwise, we're using the chat feature, which is just here, which Ken's pointed to. So if you've got any comments or questions or anything like that, or answers to any quizzes that may come up, you can use that feature. Some organisations don't have that enabled, or their firewalls and things like that, and maybe mean that doesn't work on Zoom. So you can certainly use the Q&A function if the chat doesn't work for you, and that's right there.
Awesome. So Catherine's going to be monitoring.
Yeah, Catherine.
So Catherine's going to be monitoring that chat behind the scenes and feeding me with different questions. So if there's questions along the same theme, she'll summarize those. She'll feed me those. I will be asking you as participants questions along the way, and I expect you to write the answers in the chat. And I like to give away prizes, and Catherine's in the prize pit there. You'll be getting prizes if you answer, the first one to answer correctly, or you give a really good answer, or you ask a really good question. And we're gonna send you prizes with your certificate when you successfully complete the course, as many as you can collect along the way. Emma, do you want to explain Moodle?
Yeah, absolutely. So Moodle is our learning management system that we use. You should have received an email last week from Safe System Solutions with your login details. If you have previously participated in a program with us last year, you won't have received that email necessarily, but your login details will remain the same as last time. Now, your username is your email address, and the email that was provided to you does include a password, which will then prompt you to change that. Now, all our content that you go through in the sessions is housed in Moodle, so you can go back and watch the recordings and look at the slideshows, and that also houses all your assessments. So the quizzes for today, assignments that go along the way, and everything is there, as well as additional resources and things like that. If you haven't received the email, it often goes to junk folder or spam folder, so have a look there as well. Feel free to shoot me an email if you are having access issues or you haven't received the email, and I can certainly send the details through and assist you as well. I think that's probably enough on Moodle for now.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah, just briefly to introduce myself, Ken Beer, Principal Engineer at Safe System Solutions. Yep, back in the day, worked for the Victorian Government, Vic Roads, where I looked after road safety auditing for quite a number of years, do lots of road safety auditing, safe system assessing, and a variety of other road safety infrastructure related things. Get involved in lots of Austroads projects, such as the Guide to Road Safety Auditing, part 6 of the Guide to Road Safety. My colleague, Jamie Robinson, technical lead at Safe System Solutions. He's the real detailed technical and designer type person. And so he presents the detailed design road safety audit component. Or Reese Gunther, our colleague, who is also a very technical person. And certainly as a road safety auditor, when we get those really detailed design technical road safety audits, I'm always partnering up with one of those guys. So they're really good at those very detailed end things with understanding the the swept paths and the drainage specifics and all of that. But we'll get to that. That's my QR code to my LinkedIn. Feel free to link with me on that, because the road safety discussion is just ongoing. We share lots of information on there, things to think about. So yeah, that'll be good. That's down in the bottom corner for the slides if you want to do that at any point. Okay, a few things to keep you super engaged in this course. I know you're tempted to do your emails or finish off that splitter island design that's been hanging around for a while, but there's a few things that you're going to have to be concentrating. One of them is Wally the Wombat. This is Wally the Wombat warning sign, and Wally is going to appear a number of times throughout the slides in a session, in a module. And your job is to count how many times Wally appears. Just keep a track of that on a scrap bit of paper, because when you get to the quiz after the session, there'll be questions about the content of this module, and there'll be a question, how many times did Wally appear? And you've got to answer that. Now, I've given you a little bit of tolerance either side in case you dropped your pencil or something and missed Mr. Wally, but you got to keep an eye on the slides and getting involved in the content. You also have some competency requirements, okay? This is not a course you can just sit through and you get a certificate and off you go. We actually set a pretty high benchmark on competency for a road safety audit. So we want you to attend 4 of the 5 live webinars. We'd love you to attend 5 of the 5. We know that you've got urgent meetings and things like that. You've got to view that one you don't attend if you can't attend it. Now, if you absolutely can't make 2 of them or something, you get in contact with Emma or Catherine and have a chat about it. We need you to complete all the tasks that we set. The quizzes, the exercises, assignments, the audit with the site visit, and yeah, so you need to complete them all. And you also need to get 80%, because we mark these. And 80% is pretty high, but it's our job to ensure that you're up at that competency level. So what we've said there, and I really stress this, is that you have one-on-one coaching available from Catherine or myself or one of our other senior auditors. So if you don't understand something that we're presenting, or you've got the design that you're doing a mock road safety audit on and you can't get your head around it, organize a one-on-one catch up with us. We can have a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. We can put the plans up on screen. We can talk it through. We can be on the phone with you out on site. We really want to guide you through this. If you don't get above 80%, I've failed as well as you've failed. So we certainly don't want that to happen. We give you 3 attempts at everything. So my suggestion is you jump in there, you have a go at it. If you don't do so well, you definitely want to get in contact with us. But if you really look at it and you're daunted and it's scary and you don't understand it, get in contact with us. We're here to help. Okay, so thanks, Emma. Thanks for joining in and saying hi. Well, Catherine and I will take it from here. But yeah, the participants may reach out to you during the course.
Absolutely. Have a great session.
Thank you. And Catherine, anything come in that I need to deal with, or can I jump into some road safety audit content?
Go ahead, Ken. All good on this end.
Okay, here we go. So, okay, by the end of this module, what we want to do is just define what this thing road safety audit is. We want to put it in the context of a project's life cycle. You may have heard of this thing called a black spot investigation or a black spot. Well, we're going to differentiate that between that and a road safety audit. What is the difference between the two? We're going to look into risk ratings of road safety audit, have a chat about the safe system, kinetic energy thresholds, and categorizing road safety audit findings. So a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump into it. What we're doing is following the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety audit. Now, that's a document that we've put into Moodle, so you can get a copy of that. It's on the memory stick that hopefully has arrived to you. If it hasn't arrived yet in your little pack, it'll get there shortly. It's also freely available on the Austroads website, so you'll be able to get that. That has just been released, and that was the webinar I was just presenting, was for Austroads on this new document, because I was heavily involved in it, as and we had Tony's in the group here from Transport for New South Wales. He was on the working group and providing great input. So that document's just been released, so you're getting the latest and greatest. So all of these old ones superseded, right? We're on to new stuff. Okay, this course overall, what are we trying to achieve out of this course? Well, it's really about the process of road safety auditing. Okay, we can't teach you everything you need to know to be a good auditor. We've only got a certain number of modules. I mean, that's career stuff. You're always continuing to learn, to build, to understand. You know, you really got to go through a whole lot, but you will build and you will gain knowledge. But what we want to do is give you a foundation to understand the process of road safety audit. However, we are going to give you some basic skills and some things to look at. And what I do is a lot of the time is I put examples of common issues through my sort of hundreds of road safety audits. I go, oh, here we go again, okay? I'm constantly talking to designers, trying to get them not to make these issues, but I'll bring up some common issues. We want to make sure you think about all road users and really encourage road safety auditing in your organization and as good practice. And sure, answer any questions you've got. Now, I'm going to be nice to you here. Wally count is 1. No more hints from me now. Okay, that's it. You got to find your own Wallies from here on, but that's what you're looking for. Wally count's 1. Okay, this diagram is straight out of the Austroads Guide Part 6, the new one. And what it does is it lays out the stages sort of a what the life cycle of a road, basically. And you can see there all the way from sort of corridor network planning all the way up to maintaining and operating it. So maybe doing a project, improving it, and the like. And what you can see there is that road safety audit fits in there. And this is what we call a proactive technique. Now, immediately you might be able to see there that if we go reactive techniques, that's where we're into the black spot crash investigation style thinking. You can see crash. You know, once we're looking at crashes and specific patterns of crashes, we are, you know, we're into a reactive technique. Audits are proactive. I'll expand on that quite a bit more. Often I put up these slides, really important. I put the little European warning sign there, the common road safety audit misunderstanding. First of all, that people think that an audit is a check against standards and guidelines. Now, I can understand the confusion, because if you're getting financially audited or something like that, it's going to be a check. Did you comply with all the laws? But road safety auditing is bigger than that, right? It is not a check against standards, right? Standards might be a good starting point. You might think about those and where they were developed from. But we know lots of circumstances where standards have been met, but death and serious injury to our community has still occurred. Okay. Also, two standards combining can create issues. And also, there is just a raft of innovation or circumstances out there where there are no standards or there are no guidelines for this. And so it's new, and we've got to be helping in predicting that issue. So it is not a check against standards, all right? But it does help if you know standards, you can refer back to them and get an idea. But something that doesn't meet standards, may or may not be a risk, and something that does meet standards may or may not be a risk. I do lots of little examples, jump into something immediately to clarify that point. Let's have a look at this one. First of all, I'll give a prize for somebody who can tell me what road this is. It's going to be a little hard for some of our jurisdictions to know, but somebody might get that one. I'll let that one, I'll see if anybody pops that into the chat. First one to do that can win a prize. Right, this is a tragic incident. There's been a loss of life to the driver of this heavy vehicle. They've hit that barrier, and let's say that barrier was a test level 3 barrier. Now, this is a very specific barrier technical thing. Got some guesses on the road. Nobody quite got it right. Keep guessing. You can have as many guesses as you want. Okay, James has got it. James has got it. It's Eastlink. Eastlink. So that's in Victoria. For those not from Victoria, it's Eastlink. Now, Eastlink is a relatively new road. Brilliant designers, great, great project, billions of dollars, really good. Not built that long ago, and we've had death occurring on this road. Here's one of the examples. And you scratch your head, how can this happen? Imagine if they built a brand new rail line out in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, and we were seeing this much death happening to people using that rail line. Absolute outrage. I mean, that's a complex road safety. Why are we so complacent to the risks and the like? That we'll push that one aside because that's a real navel gazer discussion, which we can't get into. But let's go into the mechanics of this. So this barrier system, let's call it a test level 3 barrier. The test levels are the basically they test the barrier with a vehicle in a crash lab and see if it contains that vehicle. Now, they give them these ratings, test level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a test level 3 barrier system, all right? What weight of vehicle do you think that they drove at 100 kilometers an hour at a 25-degree angle into that barrier in the test site to check that it contained, the vehicle didn't go through it, didn't flick it out too far on the other way? Good, we've got James in there with, going to give it to James again. It's racking up the prizes already. 2 ton is good. So yeah, this is where you might have heard the term MASH or NCHRP 350. They're test protocols. So 2 kilogram, a 2 kilogram pickup truck for the test level 3. Test level 4, which is the 10 ton, that's bigger. But even at test level 4, 10 ton, that's not that big a truck. All right, that truck we've got there, that would be way over 10 ton. I don't know, some of you probably had a good guess at it. Depends on whether it's full of stuff or not. But the point being is that that barrier was never going to be able to contain this vehicle. And it's hit a gantry that's over the road. Now, we've had a tragic incident, obviously, where the driver has been killed. That could have been extra bad, extra catastrophic if that gantry had come down over the road and other vehicles striking it. So here's an example where that design of that road with that barrier system in that point absolutely met the standards of the time. Okay? Absolutely. But what we want you to do as road safety auditors is to imagine all of these scenarios. Larger vehicles, we've got speeds, understand that barriers only expected to stop a vehicle of X size. Maybe something more should be happening here. Okay. Now, this is probably freaking some of you out and going, oh my God, I don't know anything about barriers. I don't know the technical stuff. He's just, it freaked me out. Don't worry. We audit in teams and you will over time get to understand this, and you'll be auditing. If you've got a job like this, you'll certainly be auditing with people, senior auditors that know lots about barriers and what to expect. Okay, but that to you is a clear example. Standards and guidelines have been met. a member of our community has died, all right, even though standards and guidelines were met. And our role as auditors is to intervene in these sorts of situations before that crash happens. So test level 4, there's a test level 4 vehicle. So you can see how small it is compared to that truck. So that's your 10-ton truck in a crash test scenario. But let's jump on to another sort of example. And this is an absolute classic in road safety audit. See this one far too often. But let's use this one. We've got the design of the Chandler Bridge and Chandler Highway extension there. I'm going to zoom in on that red square there. And what you can see here is they've got a new big subdivision. And when I say big, I mean massive subdivision. This is a whole suburb they're building, accessing onto the Chandler Highway there. And so they're duplicating, adding new bits and pieces. It's a whole new signalized intersection. And there's that signalized intersection just up the road up here as well. Now, I've got a red square there, and that's a car, right? So if you're, imagine you're driving along, it's a 60-kilometre road environment, maybe the driver's going 65 or something, a little bit over maybe. Okay, we're in that lane, we're happily going along, we have a green light there, so we've been travelling along. We travel along, happily travelling along, and bang, we're into a right turn lane. We didn't move, we didn't go off our lane to get in there. We were just forced into that. And it's called a trap lane. And some of the terms that people, the traffic engineers or designers have come up with are just brilliant. Trap lane to me is just absolute genius. Okay, you're trapped. You found yourself in that turn lane, right? We know absolutely that when you have a trap lane, crashes occurring in that area shoot up. Sideswipe crashes, rear end crashes, motorcyclists particularly at danger because vehicles making this last minute move to get out of that trap that they're in. And so we know if they build that, we're going to see crashes there. And so as a road safety auditor, just looking at a design, we've got to be able to find that, see it, and then flag it to the designers and the project team and say, hey, you're going to build a trap lane. That's going to cause crashes. Let's discuss how you can alter your design to minimize risk here. So trap lanes are an absolute classic, and you'll for sure find them if you're out there doing audits of designs, because land is constrained and designers are trying to, they've got such a tough task sometimes, trying to cram in more lanes and fit it around buildings and all of that. But we as auditors, we get a bit of a luxury in the fact that that's not our problem, all right? That's their problem. That's the project manager and the designer's problem. We have a role, and it is to identify configurations that have the potential to cause death and serious injury to our community and flag them. Now, admittedly, we're going to try and help them in rectifying it, but our big job is to do that. So many times I have angry designers or project managers saying, yeah, we bloody know there's a trap lane. We can't do anything about it because there's a massive building here. We don't have the width. And then they're saying things like, can you take it out of your report? I was like, can't. It's a risk, all right? We're not going to put our head in the sand. It's a risk. And that's what we do as road safety auditors. All right, time for you to do something here. Okay, I'm going to play this little bit of video footage. There is a crash in this one, right? What I want, well, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do after I've played it a few times is type into the chat things that you think in the road environment could have contributed to the likelihood of this crash. So things that might have contributed to the chance that this driver crashed at this location. So I'm going to play it now. Now, hopefully this is streaming for you and you're seeing it. I'll play it a few times. We're looking at the rear camera at the moment. We'll go to the front camera. You can see this vehicle going through.
Some good comments coming through there, Ken.
Good. Okay, I'm going to play it again, Catherine, just to give people like really good opportunity to look at road characteristics that may have influenced the chance that this crash happens. Okay, so let's play it again. Hopefully I can work out how to do that. And I'm going to have a read of these, Catherine. You have a read of them as well, and tell me if anything jumps out to you. Oh, sorry, I've paused it. There we go. Wow, this is really good stuff coming in. Okay, wow. Okay, Catherine, first of all, great group, great interaction. Loving this, loving this. Okay, I'm not going to get through everybody's stuff here, but there's a few things I want to highlight. Okay, what type of intersection is this? Is a good question. I did see some people mentioning roundabout and some people mentioning other things. That's interesting. We've got a bit of confusion as to actually what this is. Now, we're not out there in person. It's very hard to do anything from these video footages, but that's very interesting. People are confused. It's not actually a roundabout. Maybe it's got characteristics that look like a roundabout, and that actually is really good insight into auditing, because what we're trying to do is put ourselves in the shoes of the driver, or in the seat of the driver or the rider or the walker, and try to understand what are the, what are they maybe going to be confused by? What are they going to see? So that's a really interesting insight already. Seeing there, Catherine, what are you seeing? Lots of people discussing.
I think the discussion there around what type of intersection is it? And I must admit, I thought it was a roundabout. So, I think there's some really good chat there. I mean, obviously driver behaviour has popped up quite a few times, and speeding. Look, those are all behaviours that add to such a serious crash outcome. But definitely, what intersection is it? It's a great pickup.
Yeah. So let's talk about that sort of behavioural challenges. As road safety auditors, this is something we need to understand in our mind, that we are trying to eliminate death and serious injury on the road network, right? And people do all sorts of crazy stuff out there, okay? Now, if you build something perfectly and everybody was absolutely perfect all the time, right, we're good. But what we have to do is understand that humans are going to make mistakes, they're going to fail, they're going to do stuff like this, they're going to overtake, we're going to have hoons out there, we're going to have all of this. Is there anything we can do with the road environment to lessen this risk? Okay. You can get angry at the hoons and the people doing all these crazy things as much as you want. It might make you feel a little bit better. But our job is to influence what we possibly can, which is the infrastructure. Hey, there are great people working on enforcement and education and all of that sort of stuff. What can we do? All right. And there's actually surprisingly a huge number of things we can do in the infrastructure to lessen the risk of crash, even with some behaviors. But anyway, we'll come back to that. People have talked about signs here, advanced warning, line marking, sight lines, lighting. These are all really great things that you would be looking at when you got, if you're out on this site. Now, remember, a road safety audit isn't a crash investigation. We're just using a crash here to sort of analyze. What you've got to do as a road safety auditor is predict this sort of crash without actually seeing the crash happen. One of the things that's always really interesting, and I'm seeing a few people sort of mentioning some of this, and Catherine, I'll let you work out who to give a prize here. There was, I think Matt sort of mentioned something that's kind of along these lines, is what we would call a see-through effect. Okay, an intersection, as you're approaching an intersection, if the road continues on through. It gives you this sort of see-through effect. Now, there are factors that really ramp up the see-through effect, okay? One of the factors is a continuing line of power poles or trees that goes through your point to yield, right? Look at this. We've got power pole, we've got power pole, power pole. That just continues straight on down. We've got a line of trees and they continue on down. A bit hard to see from this, but for me, those are factors that sit in the subconscious of a driver. They will never be able to articulate this to you. But if you see a line of trees or a line of power poles or a line of lighting or something like that, that continues through an area where a vehicle needs to yield, you will have overshoot crashes at that location, okay? Because people drive in all states of consciousness. They're half asleep sometimes, maybe they had a few drinks, whatever it is. We don't condone any of this. We don't want it to happen. It happens though, right? They will be a bit zoned out and they'll overshoot that intersection. Now, this could be what's happened there. Now, advanced warning, as you talked about, great. It helps them come back to it, understand, oh, something's coming up. We've got to do something here, right? Getting our signs and lines right? Try not to have one sign block another sign. These sorts of things all help to make it easier for somebody to identify what they've got to do. The speeds of vehicles on the approach to these and changing geometry. These are all things an auditor would look at. They'd look at, was the sight distance appropriate? Was the driver confused? There was an intersection. Is the two approaches, are they something? So you're sort of combining all these together. But as auditors, we don't stop there, right? We also then say, okay, all of these factors may have influenced the chance that somebody crashed. Now, how bad is that going to be? And what are the factors that influence how bad this will be? Okay. So some factors, and I'm going to move sort of a bit quicker through this. Some factors are the speed of that vehicle, right? Now that vehicle's not, they haven't done anything wrong. They had priority, right? But their speed is going to influence the severity of this crash, okay? Any fixed infrastructure that they can crash into is going to influence the severity of this crash. The angle that this crash happens is going to influence the severity of this crash. So note how I'm really clarifying there. We've got stuff that influences the chance that the crash happens and stuff that influences how bad it's going to be. Okay, so that then driver hits there and we've got, some sort of severity of the first crash. And then they go and hit this light pole, don't they? As a sort of combined unit. And it sort of breaks away and then the top of it falls down, which actually I've not seen frangible poles with this sort of top breakaway, but some of you may know more than me. But anyway, really interesting. So let's have a little bit of a look at this pole, because there's a couple of things I want to note about that. Somebody, a designer, a project engineer, or maybe a road safety auditor has made a decision to use a particular type of pole at this location, light pole at this location. And they've decided to use what we call a slip-based light pole. And here is a slip-based light pole, a diagram of one, and there's one of our road safety auditors just checking the height of one of those. Okay, so this, this is great, just genius engineering. Okay, so when people hit poles, it's really bad because that immediate stop transfers all the energy into the human, really quick deceleration, and you basically have organs in your body smashing against the inside of your body, and that kills you or seriously injures you. Okay, so if you can dissipate your energy over time, it's better. You slow down in a longer period of time. There's less energy dissipated onto you. Okay, and so this one breaks away. It shears at the bottom. All right, and then they've got some clips on the outside here, some bolts to take that torsion, that wind load, and the like, or the different loads that the lights are. But this is really a wonderful, wonderful road safety device and a great sort of thing to minimize the severity of those crashes, right? Hey, the crash still happened, didn't it? But it was so much less severe. And if you watch that video again, and it's actually in Moodle, you can watch it again or share it if you want, you'll see that if that black vehicle had hit a rigid pole, I reckon they would have been seriously injured, if not killed. And you'd be surprised at how that abrupt stop can be so impactful. But if you can provide a bit of space for them to accelerate with something shearing or hitting a barrier or the like, we see the severity of crashes significantly come down. So as a road safety auditor, you get in these really interesting scenarios where you're given a plan like this. They say, hey, can you do a road safety audit on this? Okay. So this plan. And first of all, your task is going to be to understand what on earth is happening here. What are they building? What are they changing? What's going on? And then from that, you have to imagine that built, right? And to get your space in, imagining all this new lighting has been put in. So this is a lighting plan, they're putting new lights in, different locations, adding bits and pieces, all right? So then you're imagining that. And then what you're asking yourself is, okay, you're asking yourself a whole lot of things around the likelihood. Are those lights going to give a visual deceit? We use that term visual deceit. Is it deceiving the driver or the rider or the walker that the road might do something different? Okay, is there something going on with that? And then you might be thinking, hang on, we're adding poles into this environment now. What type of poles are we adding? Are vehicles going to leave the road? Are they going to hit those? If they hit those, what's the speed that's going to happen? And, should we be making these slip-based or not? Now, here's a road environment, again, something that was built not that long ago, but hypothetically here, if they were to say this one here, right? This one here, you get the plans and they're planning to make that a slip-based light pole. It's actually sort of a joint use pole with a signal lantern on it. But if I were to say, we're going to make this a slip-based pole, okay, you might be, as an auditor, saying, oh, well, that's nice that they're trying to protect people. What, though, as an auditor, might you identify as some risks associated with that choice of pole? Okay, it's coming in well there. What do we got there, Catherine?
Yeah, so we got some good points there about risks to vulnerable road users like pedestrians. The tram line, obviously, is a big one. Signals potentially could be damaged and be out and not working. Striking,
Fantastic.
Yeah, power lines, quite a bit there. Well
Awesome.
done.
That's great. Give a prize to the first person who said anything associated with secondary risk or hitting pedestrians or the like. Hope you're keeping track of prizes there, Catherine, because I'm not.
Sure am. I'm keeping track, Ken.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So this is again, okay. So somebody's trying to do a really good job of lessening the severity of that crash, but we as auditors need to think that scenario through. Now we've got a pole and it's going to be, if it's struck, it's going to land maybe in an area where pedestrians are congregating, maybe it's going to hit power lines and those sorts of things. So you're thinking through this scenario. Okay. There is another type of another type of frangible. A frangible is a term that means breakaway upon impact. It's a classic road safety engineering term. Don't use it in your community consultation. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. But there's another type of frangible pole. I will give a prize if somebody can give me the term for that other type of frangible pole. So we've got slip-based. There's another type. So I'll see if anybody knows that one. It's a bit of a technical question. Oh, Matt is on it. Impact absorbing. Correct. Okay. Now that is an impact absorbing pole. Okay. Still frangible, but it doesn't break away and shear off. Okay. The same way that slip-based one does. This one actually sort of folds, keeps everything in a fairly tight envelope. Okay. So you can see there a crash example of it keeps it in an envelope. So it's been weakened at the base. Right? It's an impact absorbing pole. And what we do is we make a choice as to, it's basically a choice of three. Do you go a rigid pole? Do you go an impact absorbing, or do you go a slip base? Okay. And it is all situation dependent. Some good rule of thumb, and there are some different design notes from different jurisdictions on this. Good rule of thumb: low speed environment, very low speed environment, rigid pole, lowish speed environment, impact absorbing, high speed environment, slip base, right? But your job as a road safety auditor is to make that call. Is it the right thing? Is it the right pole? Is the risk worse for landing on pedestrians, or is it worse for the vehicle occupant that's hitting a rigid pole? All for you to sort of conjure in your mind in the particular scenario they're planning to build this or install this. A couple of other little things to think about as you're road safety auditing. The height of a slip-based pole. So if there are existing slip-based poles in the area where they're planning to build something, or if you're asked to sort of review an existing bit of road, the height of those is quite important. Too high and a vehicle will snag on them, they're useless in terms of their slip-basedness. Too low and you compromise the amount that it's going to shear, and particularly design. So you want to get the height about right, okay? And you can see the height marking on the barrier there, which is, and you can find that from lots of the standards and guidelines. The second one we've talked about a fair bit there is, where's it going to fall? Where's it going to fall, and what secondary risks are we going to create? Now, what I've done also is, you've got an electronic copy of the slides in Moodle on your memory stick, PDF. What I've also done is put some of these little things down the bottom here, you can see. They are actually hyperlinks to a little bit more on this topic, if you want to see a little bit more. So we do these things called safe system snippets, lots of different topics. So you can click on those, you can have a little bit more of a look, or look at the videos and slip-based poles going and those sorts of things. Okay. All right, another common misconception, and thanks for the wonderful input we're having here. And Catherine, just jump in at any point you want to. If there's something that I get excited and go down different rabbit holes often. Okay, I talked about this earlier. Road safety audit is a proactive process, okay? Black spot investigation or crash investigation is that reactive process, okay? So if you have an intersection, okay, you're managing, maybe you're in a road authority or something, you're managing it. It's got this big crash history, you know, 20 crashes over the last 5 years or something like that. And you want somebody to investigate those crashes and that road environment and understand exactly what the issues are. What you're doing is a black spot investigation or a crash investigation. That is a different process, very complementary process to road safety auditing. Okay? Road safety auditing is predominantly associated with looking at designs for alterations, upgrades, changes to the road network, and predicting risk associated with those changes. Occasionally, we do a existing conditions road safety audit. Some jurisdictions will call it a road safety review or a road safety diagnostic or something different, but it's sometimes termed an audit, okay? It's often because the client doesn't quite know what they're asking for or want. But do you look at crash history in those circumstances? Well, it's up to you, okay? There's no specific, you don't look at crash history, or you do look at crash history, but you don't want to be, you know, fully driven by crash history, okay? It might give you some insights. The question is, if you're given a design, they say, this is currently a give-way controlled intersection, and we're going to turn it into a roundabout. Here's the design. Do you look at the crash history of that site when you're doing the audit? Well, to be honest, the crash history is kind of meaningless, because what your job is to predict, once a roundabout's there, what are the risks, all right? Not what as it is now. Somebody else has looked at that and decided they need a roundabout, okay? So your job is to be sort of thinking forward. Now, I do know auditors that use crash history even in that to get an indication of maybe what types of road users are using that and involved in issues. I like to sort of, in a design audit with my team, do the audit pretty much, then maybe look at the crash history, see if something pops out of that we might not have expected, like, oh, wow, there's actually quite a few pedestrians involved in this. And but really, it's not a crash history investigation. That's a bit of a common misunderstanding, that you're given a whole lot of crashes and say, do a road safety audit. You say, well, you actually mean do a black spot investigation. And road safety auditing, so taking that design, and I've split it there into design, getting a design, we're planning to build this, and you give advice on what could lessen the risk when they build that new thing and it's being operated by the public. There's a big Canadian study, actually, 36-1 in a benefit cost ratio. Basically, every dollar invested in road safety auditing and the rectification dollars, so whatever the auditor is sort of recommending, gives 36 times the benefit. What a great investment. Not so much for existing roads. And the reason for that is that when it's a design, they can easily change the lines on the design, move it around, and it's not going to cost a huge amount more. Sometimes it might, sometimes it's cheaper. Right? Existing conditions, you've got physical infrastructure there, you've got concrete, you've got barriers, you've got lights and things. And so if you make suggestions, it's very expensive sometimes to fix it, or sometimes they just go for a lesser fix by putting some warning signs up or the like, rather than fundamentally, because they can't afford to fix the fundamental issue. So we love auditing at design stage, right? Picking those issues before they even build them. Okay, Catherine, we're going to have a stretch break soon. I might just try and get to a slide where we've got a little poll that comes up, okay? Oh, you're on mute there, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question from the chat, Ken, from Richard. It was around the stats that you were talking about in the previous slide.
Yeah.
Is that dependent on the quality?
Yeah, so this is like a big study of like thousands of audits that were undertaken. So you're going to get varied quality. I mean, it was just analysing lots of audits. They basically said, okay, this is what they were going to build. And, this is what they ended up building. And then, some experienced people and researchers and the like made predictions on the crash reduction that the new design compared to the proposed design would have created and what the auditors have done. So yeah, it does depend on it, but that's sort of the average you're expected to get. Okay, what's a road safety audit? Well, I'm not going to read through a page of definition of what a road safety audit is, which is out of the Australia Guide to Road Safety Part 6, because you can do that yourself. Right? You've got a copy of that now, and you can look and read all of that. That's fine. But what I'll do is take a particular bit out of that and say it's a formal examination of a future road or traffic project or an existing road or road-related area in which an independent qualified team reports on the project's crash potential and actual safety performance respectively. Key words in there, right? It's formal, right? It is a formal process, and I'm going to take you through that process, and it's got lots of steps and lots of things you've got to do, right? But it's a formal process. It's not a casual, do you want to just duck out and do a road safety audit at lunchtime? And no, okay? Future projects is, what most auditing is all about, but existing ones I just talked you through. Independent, all right? You cannot road safety audit your own design. You cannot road safety audit the project that you are the project manager of, right? We want an independent set of eyes to look at that project and predict risk, all right? And the reason for that is a few. Well, first of all, it's like trying to proofread your own letter or email, right? Okay, you read it and you go, yep, it's all perfect. You hand it to your colleague, they read it, they pick up mistakes, right? And you look at it and think, how did I miss that? Well, you're too close to it, right? You read what you wanted to, okay? And it can be the same with road designs, all right? So they're the things that get missed, okay? But also the independence means that you're not shackled with all of these challenges that the designer and the project manager have. The cost, the community concerns, the political challenges, all these, cultural heritage issues, and all of these raft of issues where they've made compromises and decisions. And that is either subconsciously or consciously going to impact on how they've accepted risk or altered it, and they're, you know, going, weighing this, weighing these things off. Okay, you come in there clean, independent, and just say it as it is from a risk perspective. Qualified, we've got to make sure that the people doing the audits know what the audit process is, and that's what we're going through now. Okay, and that you've got the skills and experience and knowledge, and you audit in teams, so you're going to be partnering up in early stages of auditing in your career with really experienced people, building your knowledge over time, and eventually you'll get up there as well. And we're looking at crash potential. What is the chance that the crash is going to happen in the future?
Ken, just a question there from James, just a good point. He just asked if you are independent, if you're still working in the same company, but you weren't part of the design. Yeah,
so this is a big sort of point of contention. There's a little more clarity in the new Austrade's guide around that. And it's sort of to say that, it is possible to be independent, but you're going to have to really jump through some hoops and make that very clear, put up really clear walls and boundaries on that, okay? The easiest possible way to prove independence is a completely separate company, okay? Nobody challenges that, completely separate. Right. When you're in an organization and you're starting to audit your colleagues' work, we're getting murky, we're getting really murky. And what you've got to do is, imagine you're in the coroner's court, you're sitting there and you're defending your road safety audit. And believe me, this happens, okay? Yeah, there's been a fatality and you're in there, And the Austrade's guide says, mate, you must be independent. And they say, well, hang on, you work for ABC Consultant. ABC Consultant did this design. Then it's up to you, you're going to have to really prove how you were completely independent from this. And if I was the sort of prosecuting barrister, I'd be saying, really, who's your boss? All right, who's your boss's boss? And I'd find that convergence and where they meet. And I'll say, really? So if your designer's over budget and your designer's, times, the time's gone over budget, are you going to be a little soft in your auditing to let that through? So that's the risk we're trying to eliminate. Now, I personally think that we have a really great integrity in our industry and that people are able to do that. But what I would absolutely stress is you work that out before you go into any of it, and you put up really clear walls and you make sure that's documented well and you're really clear around that, or just get an independent to do it and leave the design to the design, okay? Any more on that, Catherine?
Yeah, there was just one more question around, is this independence requirement supported by all Austroads members?
Yeah, all Austroads members have signed off independence requirements. So all jurisdictions have signed off that. And yeah, so it's there, but it's not like the guide, really, if you're interested in this, have a read at the section of the guide. It leaves the door open for a big consultancy to have an audit team and a completely separate design team on a different floor or in a different city. Okay, it leaves that open to say that can be independent. I just flag it as a potential risk. Okay, looks like there's a really big comment that's come in there from, oh, good, Tony's copied and pasted it in from the guide. What a legend, awesome. Okay. Have a read of that if you're interested. I'm going to keep moving on because the SAFE system, we are required to implement the SAFE system on our road network. It's a philosophy. It's how we think about road safety, right? And we're integrating it into road safety audits. This is not a course where I'm going to teach you the depths of the SAFE system, but I am going to make sure you understand the principles of it because you use these in road safety auditing. Now, I picked one of the SAFE system diagrams. Don't worry if you can't read it. I'm going to take you through it. It says here, we've got a principle is that people make mistakes, okay? We are dealing with a system operated and managed and used by people, and people stuff up all the time, all right? I've made many mistakes already today, as I'm sure you have, okay? They've been minor, haven't resulted in death or serious injury, but we make mistakes all the time, okay? what we need to do is get that in our head as an auditor, that humans are fallible, and how can we manage the road environment around that? How can we do everything we can to stop them making mistakes with the road infrastructure? And then how do we make sure that when the mistakes happen, still, we're trying to stop them, but they still happen. How do we prevent death and serious injury, the severity of it? And that comes down to human bodies are vulnerable. What's the force that we can take as a human before we break? And we've got a shared responsibility. We saw that white ute driver, and some, people think, oh, maybe they overtaking, maybe they are, on ice or drugs or whatever it is, okay? But we can't just wash our hands of that and say, well, people are going to act like that, nothing we can do about it. We've got to say, what could we alter in the road design to lessen the risk? We're in there. The principles are aiming for no death or serious injury. We've got to acknowledge people make mistakes. We have a shared responsibility, so the designers, the managers of the road system have a responsibility, as well as the road users, and people are vulnerable. Okay, what we're going to do is a quick quiz is going to come up. Catherine's going to put a quick poll up. You're not being marked on this. This is simply just for you to have a little guess at. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. There you go. The poll's popped up for you. Hopefully you can see it. If you haven't, don't worry about it. You're not being marked on it. Have a go at those. I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes. Have a stretch. Get some water as well after you finish it. Just have a guess at them. Don't spend too long at it if you don't want, and we'll be back shortly.
Fantastic.
We'll give it another minute, Catherine, so people can have a stretch and fill their water up, and then we'll get back in.
Sure thing.
All right.
Wow,
All
we
right.
got a good response right there. I will end the poll.
Yep.
And I will share the results.
Great. All right, let's have a look now. So most of these questions we've been through, and there was one at the end which we hadn't been through, but I was interested to see what people would think. Okay, so remember, you're not being marked on any of this, so don't worry if you got it wrong. A road safety audit is another name for checking in standards. Okay, awesome. Everybody was listening. No, it is not. False. Well done. True or false? You can audit your own design. Again, everybody's on the right, on the money there. You cannot audit your own design. You're not independent of that. Which as long as not considered a formal element of the safe system. Safe attitudes, yes, correct. We'd love everybody to have safe attitudes, but it's not one of those formal elements of the safe system. All the others are. So you would have seen in the diagram, and I didn't dwell on it, but we've got safe people, safe roads and roadside, safe speeds, and safe vehicles, and safe post-crash care. And I don't dwell on it because I know so many of you have already been safe systemed to death around those bits of it. It's translating those principles we talked about into reality, which we're going to certainly dwell on over the next few modules. Which, as following, is not a common principle of the safe system. Eliminate mistakes on the road, that's correct, because we are dealing with humans. We're not going to eliminate the mistakes. What we want to do is minimize and manage. Okay, minimize them and manage them. And Usain Bolt, why are we asking this question in a road safety audit course? What speed did he cross the finish line on his world record 100-meter sprint? Well, 10 of you are correct, on 44 kilometers an hour. Well done. Let's stop sharing that, Catherine, and I will answer why on earth we're talking about Usain Bolt. Well, 44 kilometers an hour, you're belting along. Well, he's belting along. I'm not certainly belting along at that speed, but let's park a car at the end of his lane. And he comes running along at 44 kilometers per hour and bang, slams into that. Okay, will he survive? Well, the answer is yes, most likely. I mean, he's the Hulk of a human. Yeah, pick any of us mere mortals up, throw us at that car at 44 kilometers an hour. It's starting to get shaky as to whether we'll survive that. Certainly pick our grandma up and throw her at she's not going to survive. Anyway, there's actually a general correlation between the speed that you can run and your ability to withstand physical force running into something solid. So you can test that if you want. You can run as fast as you can at a tree, and you should survive. You'll hurt yourself. It'll take a while to recover, but you should survive to lead a normal, healthy life. That is human tolerance to physical force, right? That's how much force we were evolved to take, okay? So we need to start being able to think about that as auditors when we're understanding the severity of crashes. But obviously there's a whole lot of scenarios of crashes, which include vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to cyclist, pedestrian, different angles of crash, and a whole lot of different configurations. So we're trying to unpack to understand how bad these crashes are going to be when they happen. We have some information, some research. Now, there's lots of this research going on around Australia, New Zealand, around the world at the moment, but let's use these ones as a pretty good gauge. And so what we have at the bottom here is collision speed, all right? Collision speed. This is not speed limit. Okay, get speed limits out of your mind. This is the speed of crash, okay? Speed limits may influence that, but lots of other things could influence that as well, okay? Collision speed, speed of impact. All right, and this is the chance that it's going to result in death. And this is for vehicle hitting pedestrian. Okay? And you see, it exponentially kicks up around 30 kilometers an hour. It goes really bad, really fast. Okay? So, below 30 kilometers an hour, pretty good chance of survival, with random, member of the population being struck. Up at 60 kilometers per hour, pretty high chance it's going to result in death for that direct strike. It's really bad, really quick after 30 kilometers per hour. There's the great man himself. He comes in up the chart because he's a Hulk of a human, and that line is representing all of society and all of our different frailty levels. And, this is the kind of stuff that we are absolutely designed to withstand. We can withstand these forces. They're going to hurt, but that's what we're designed for. Yeah, he broke a few ribs. He came back a year later to the Olympics, won the gold medal. So, we survive. We carry on. We have this information for other crash types. Here's right angle side impact crashes, all right? Bullet vehicle speed. Bullet vehicle is the one that does the damage, okay? This is the target vehicle, the one being struck, the one being that's going to get the damage done to it. Bullet vehicle speed down the bottom here, okay? Bullet vehicle speed, right angle crash, driver side or passenger side if it struck that side. Chance of death for the occupant of the target vehicle, about 50 kilometers per hour. It goes really bad, really far, like really quickly. And for head-on crashes, we see that bullet vehicle, actually both of them being the bullet vehicle and both being the target vehicle, bullet vehicle speed at that 70 kilometers per hour is really bad, really fast. Closing speed of 140 kilometers an hour, force on the individual driver, 70 kilometer per hour to zero crash, assuming same weight, same speed, same weight of vehicle, direct crash. These are a general indication for you. And we really sort of focus in on this 10% line where things go really bad really quickly after that point, okay? That's a big focus of safe system. But in the new Austroads guide, we've given you even better guidance. There's more information here. This table is not exactly in the Austroads guide, but I'm going to show you a chart that is very shortly. Catherine.
Question there, Ken, from the group. As auditors, would we be interested in the speed versus the ability to process road information?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's more in the likelihood of crash when we're thinking about what is the chance a crash is going to happen. Not so much how bad it's going to be with the energy and the physics and the like, but higher speeds and ability to process information, and you get a bit of tunnel view as well. So the faster you're going, the less you're going to see in the periphery and a whole lot of other things. So yeah, you're factoring that in as an auditor, certainly. So really great question there, I suppose. You can give a prize there as well, Catherine. We'll give prizes for good questions as well as answering my questions.
Certainly.
Now, the old road safety audit model was just to identify the issue, give it a risk rating, and make a recommendation. The new road safety audit model is still identify that, still risk rate it, but think about it in association with that line that I just drew on that chart. Is this going to be really bad, high-level death and serious injury for our community? Or is this going to be a more minor incident? And then you make some recommendations aligned and explain how well aligned those are with safe system principles. I'm going to take you through this step by step. I haven't even touched on this last one yet, all right? But I will use a worked example for it shortly, which is always an easier way to understand this. In fact, let's jump into a worked example straight away. Here we go. We've got a design. They're building a brand new intersection. This one's actually not a subdivision. This is a deviation of a road to enter a new road at a new location. And it's a 100 kilometer per hour road, high speed. And this road's also 100 kilometers per hour. This is a rural road environment. And you can see there that they're creating this new intersection. It's got a splitter island there. It's got a nice turn lane there. It's got a right turn lane. It's got a left turn lane in there, right? Now, as an auditor, you're looking at this design, you're imagining it all built, okay? You're out there, you're standing there on this existing road that doesn't currently have an intersection and imagining this new intersection there and saying, I wonder what the dangers are of this. You may have a look at some standards and guidelines and see what that suggests. Is that meeting that? Then you might say, well, okay, now just from a logical perspective, what are the risks? What am I missing? What other things might happen? Now, one of the risks you might pick up and say, I'm concerned about this, is a thing we call a dynamic visual obstruction risk, dynamic visual obstruction, okay? So let's have a look at an example here. Here we go, we've got an existing intersection, so I can show this in pictures. And you've got, you're waiting to go out there, and you can see there's a truck there. You've got a white car just next to it. You know, that truck just comes in, and the truck's got indicator on and moved over to the left there. And you can see the white cars continue on through. The truck's obviously turning, which is all good. And you go, right, as soon as that white car is gone, I'm going to make my turn. And then bang, all the time, this other silver car there has been masked behind that truck, okay? Now, that's what we call a dynamic visual obstruction. And if you made that decision to go, it could have been a right angle, side impact crash. The bullet vehicle is this one, isn't it? It's the one that's going to be doing the damage. This vehicle, target vehicle, okay? So let's go back to that. And you've gone, I see what they're building here, but I'm worried about that dynamic visual obstruction crash, okay? So how are we going to write this up in our road safety audit? So here we go. We've put it in there. The first thing that I want you to do as a road safety auditor is think about, can I draw this as a picture or put a photo in so whoever's reading this report understands exactly what I'm talking about very easily? Okay, this just makes audit so much more useful, consumable, saves everybody time. So that diagram straight away, I don't even need to read all of this to understand what the issue is, okay? I've got car, the sight line, it's being blocked. Okay, I know what the issue is, but let's have a look at the words anyway. For the intersection of X and X, blah, 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 vehicles using the left turn lane may create dynamic visual obstruction for motorists at the hold line looking for through vehicles. This increases the likelihood of right through / side impact crashes involving vehicles turning out from the side road. The volume of vehicles on both roads is low, which reduces the likelihood of the crash. However, the proportion of larger vehicles turning left into Epsom Barwatha Road is high, which increases the chance of dynamic visual obstruction occurring. The design is consistent with current OST roads and Vic road design guidance. The auditors believe it still presents a safety issue. Could be slightly worded a little bit better. But that's interesting, isn't it? They've said, hey, this is an issue. Yeah, it meets all the standards and guidelines, but we don't like it. Okay? And they've explained why, and they've drawn a diagram. Now, what I've done, and it's taken me many years to conjure this up. I'm sure smarter people would have done it quicker, but finally I've worked out that there's a bit of a formula to how to write a good audit finding. Okay, I finally put this into the 2022 guide with Paul Hillier, who and help with the working group. The red there is the issue. The yellow actually spells out that crash. I've said right through, side impact. The blue are factors that increase, decrease the risk. So I'm saying low volume, less, lower chance, but the turning volume of larger vehicles bigger. And then standards and guidelines if applicable. And this one, actually, I'm saying it meets your standards and guidelines. All right. So what I'm really going to hammer home here is in this course, we're going to be actually assessing you on your writing of audit findings and putting these things in there. When we mark your audits, we're going to go, have they clearly told us what the issue is? Have they actually spelled out the crash? Have they put risk factors? And, have they put standards and guidelines if applicable? That's essentially a window into how your assignments are going to be marked. So maybe remember this slide. Okay, so then we've written up that nice finding. How are we going to risk rate it? Well, we go to this risk matrix. Now, I'm not going to give any prizes for this because it's actually written on the slide, but what does risk equal? Risk equals the chance of a crash multiplied by how bad it is going to be. Some people would say frequency times consequence, but likelihood times severity. What is the chance a crash is going to happen? How bad is it going to be? And this is just a classic risk matrix. What's the chance of a crash? How bad is it going to be? And what's the resultant risk? Let's blow that up a bit bigger. What is the chance of a crash happening? Well, maybe we say it's unlikely or it's rare. Okay, let's go with rare. We say, I can't remember what I actually risk rated that one. You'd want to look at, volumes of traffic because that's exposure and all the, are there sightline constraints, other things, but let's go with rare. So we would predict if they build that, maybe every 10 years, we're going to get that dynamic visual obstruction that actually results in a crash. But how bad is it going to be? All right. This is where we go, well, it's, going to be serious or potentially fatal because we've got a bullet vehicle speed of 100 kilometers an hour. And so then say we think fatal, we go down rare, fatal, it's been identified as high risk. And there's this line now, okay? This line helps us know whether it's in the fatal serious injury or whether it's in moderate, minor, or insignificant. And we actually now want to designate that with some sort of FSI or flag to say, hey, this is going to be really bad if it happens. Okay, look, we've got a high risk down here. But we've also got a high risk over here. Minor crash, almost certain to happen. Once every quarter we predict it. But they just need first aid, minor, very minor injury. Still high risk because it's happening so often, but not in that high risk, fatal, serious injury area, which is predominantly what we're focusing on in the safe system to eliminate. We do not ignore this, right? That's still presented in our road safety audit. This just helps us understand what's the big fatal serious injury, what's the more minor. So you can see there. Okay, so this one we put as serious. I'm actually questioning whether it is 100 kilometers an hour or 80. That's what it's actually probably 80. Because I think I'd be fatal, we put down there if it was 100. But there's going to be some of them that'll be, serious. So we've gone with likelihood rare, serious, and the risk is medium, but it's FSI, right? FSI, meaning that well above safe system tolerances. Okay, so this is then where we get to saying, right, now we've got to try to make some sort of recommendations. Now, there is only one jurisdiction at the moment that doesn't put recommendations in their audit. That's New South Wales. I understand they're looking and reviewing that, and certainly the Austroads Guide suggests that recommendations should be made. The auditors are very well placed to assist with ideas, not to say that the designers and project managers have to take on what an auditor says, but there's some good help there. But what sort of recommendations could we make here? And what we actually do is start to categorize our recommendations into either primary or supporting. And a primary recommendation is road planning, design, and management considerations that virtually eliminate the potential for fatal and serious injury crashes occurring associated with foreseeable crash times. Supporting treatments, those are road planning, design, and management considerations that improve the overall level of safety associated with that foreseeable crash, but they're not expected to virtually eliminate it. It also doesn't change our ability to get a primary in the future. Okay, now you will be confused by this, I reckon, okay, because it is quite confusing. You will get better at it as we do more practice and you do it. But the first thing I'll say is this other document, which is the Austroads Safe System Assessment Framework, has examples of treatments that would fit into primary, that would fit into supporting. Okay? But we're going to have to flag whatever we suggest as, is it a primary or is it a supporting? Let's do that. So this one says, implement measures to reduce the speed and/or angle of impact at this location. This could be achieved with a roundabout. Okay, that'd be wonderful. And that is a primary, right? That is a primary because if a roundabout was built there, we're really going to eliminate these side impact crashes in terms of them resulting in death or serious injury. There's still going to be crashes there, but they will be low speed and the angles will be good. So we've virtually eliminated these side impact right angle type crashes. There may be other crashes at this roundabout. There may be loss of control crashes. There may be motorcycle crashes and these sorts of things. But this particular crash that we've been focusing in on this finding will virtually be eliminated in terms of death and serious injury. Now, if this cannot be achieved, implement measures to improve sightlines of this location, such as increasing offset of the left turn lane, supporting, or relocating the hold line forward to provided that it can be done so safely, also supporting. Okay, so this is the idea of sort of moving that down a bit, so that vehicle will sort of come in there, having that a bit wider, having some sort of buffer in there to open up sightlines. Okay. Why is that supporting? I mean, that's going to open up those sight lines. Well, it's supporting because people are still going to stuff up and those crashes are still going to happen. They'll be less frequent, okay? But the potential for death and serious injury is certainly still there. I was actually with a colleague doing an audit of a very similar one to that, and we had that exact issue. And the reason, so let me go back. The reason, yeah, a roundabout would be brilliant at this location. And so we've mentioned that. But we kind of know that this has a particular budget, this job, and that it's really well beyond the scope of what they can do. We're not going to hide it and not say it because it would be a really great outcome. But we're sort of acknowledging as auditors that there's going to be limitations on that. So here are some other ideas. But this is the primary one if you really want to do that. And these are some supporting ones. And so we got a similar scenario here, and you can see actually that we actually used a bike lane to get that separation and open up sight lines, which was actually helping us in, or this was a suggestion, which was actually helping us in two senses because there were actually a surprising number of bikes in this generally rural area, and it opens up those sight lines and also provides a bit more space for bikes. I mean, ideally you'd have an off-road path and all of that, but that was an idea we were floating around. Okay, audit tip, and I'm going to come back to you for some discussion shortly. We've got half an hour to go, and we've got to give you an assignment to do, so we've got a fair bit to cover. Really, to get that primary treatment categorization, it's either got to reduce and address the consequence of crash, the severity of that crash, or virtually eliminate the possibility. And that's really kind of grade separation style stuff. Because you've got to take into account humans being humans. Now, you always, in your audit report, leave this table and this bit blank. This is your reminder to whoever receives this audit, hey, you got to do something with this. You got to make some decisions. Okay? They don't actually have to send this back to you filled out, but it's a reminder to them that you don't get an audit done and then put it in your drawer and never look at it again. No, you got to address each of those. You may not be able to do what they're saying, but you've got to make some comments and decide, okay, yeah, we agree with that, or we don't agree with that. We're going to do this instead and reduce the risk, all right? But you leave that blank and there and in the audit report to remind the receiver of that report. Okay, I've got another example here. I'm probably just going to jump through this. I'm not going to go through it in as much detail. This one's around a narrow right turn lane, and you can see it's pretty easy to tell because it's a nice snip of the design and an arrow, and so you don't need to read all the words, but the words will very much be put into that that usual formula. It's got a risk rating that'll be checked against the expected severity of crashes. If we're thinking about side swipe crashes there, if you have narrow lanes, you know you're going to get side swipe style crashes and maybe some rear ends. So you'd be thinking about, well, what is the severity of that sort of rear end crash or side swipe crash? We know that those can happen at quite a high speed and not have as much injury. You can, you know, that's basic physics and understanding of that side swipe, bouncing some energy off. So you can sort of go back and you say, well, actually, that's within the tolerable limits. That's to the left of the line in our risk chart. And maybe we want people to make the lanes a bit wider, reallocate some road space. Okay, so, you know, those are the kind of things. That's in your notes, the PDFs in Moodle on your memory stick. You can have a read of that one in particular. You can see there the narrow turn lane. It's a difficult one to deal with. You constrain for road space and the like, but you're still popping it in there. There's another Wally, just in case you're missing them along the way. I said I wasn't going to be nice. But, you know, in that one, I've given examples here of what I would say is a poor write-up of an audit finding. Okay, right turn bay is too narrow. Okay, well, which right turn bay? What, you know, so what? You know, all of the, you know, it's really not giving you meaty information. This is fair. It sort of says from main road to side road, potential for a particular cache type, side swipe, and it actually puts in what the Austroads Guide to Road Design would state in terms of the width. And here's a really good one. And it goes through in quite a bit of detail and it actually goes through and says, this is the issue in the red. This is the crash. This is the risk factors. Here's some information about standards and guidance. And here's a snip of the design and we know exactly where it is. That's what we want to be seeing when you're writing up audit findings. Catherine. Yep.
And just another one from the group. In the event of an accident occurring, will the audit findings be considered in a court environment?
Yeah, so I do have a session at the end where we sort of talk about legal liability of auditors, of road authorities, and how things have played out in legal scenarios with road safety auditing in the past. Audits can be used in legal cases and in coroner's investigations as well. Auditors can be put on the stand and in different things. And they can be public documents, audits. So there is potential for that. And from a road authority perspective, there's potential that an audit's been done and you've got to really justify your reasoning that you've addressed risk in one way or another way, and you can do that in the audit report. So it is important. It's an important process. It's a public process in terms of the Austroads Guide is out there. People know about road safety auditing. Prosecuting legal teams know that audits should be done and those sort of things. So yeah, there's a bit to that. We'll talk more in the last session about that. I'm not sure if we do have another quiz, and I've probably got to keep moving on. Catherine, is there another one there for us?
No, there's not. Just a one for today's session, Ken.
No worries. It's good because I have a huge amount of time. Okay. Again, a slide here with lots and lots of words on it. I don't like too many words on the slide, but I did take this out of the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, Road Safety Audit, and it's talking about what a road safety audit is not. We've covered a lot of this already. It's not that check against standards, all right? It's not a way to assess the overall merits of a project, okay? And you're not making that commentary around, yeah, this is good, this is bad. You're just addressing and finding issues and flagging those and risk rating those. It's not a way to compare projects or justify one project over another. There's other tools you can use to do that. I mean, there's multi-criteria assessment of projects. The safe system assessment is a good one from a road safety perspective and getting scores and quantifying and those sorts of things. It's not a QA check, a quality assurance check. That should be happening. It's not a crash investigation. It's not your usual cyclic visual inspection of a road that a surveillance officer would do. You know, and then there's more there that it's not. I'll let you read that in your own time, but it's just to be very clear, and I think you're gathering a really good understanding of what it is. It's not a workplace health and safety check for a construction site either. That's one that's probably confusion as well. Now, a little thing that I was told 20 years ago that's really stuck with me through my auditing career is that road safety auditors are problem finders. Okay, that's what we have to do. Some of you are going to find it very hard not to jump straight to solving issues. And it's because we tend to get really smart technical people, engineers, planners, designers, and the like coming along to be, they're interested in auditing road safety, want to do this. But what they do is they look at a design and they immediately solve issues without understanding the problem properly. Okay, perhaps they do it so quickly that they just go, that's the issue and this is how to solve it. But it's what we want to do is really articulate and describe the problem. Okay, how to solve that problem. We can add some advice and, help out, but that's to the designer, the project manager, the road authority, the client. That is for them to work out. Okay, we're the problem finder. In the end, they're the problem solver. We find, they solve. Okay, that's a decent way to think about it. That's why we spend so much time on getting that recipe or formula for how to write up an audit finding, because it helps in the solving. Because you might have one idea of how to solve this issue. They mightn't be able to do that. They might come up with it in a different way, but if they can do that, that's fine. And there's lots of different tools and things out there. Actually, I'm going to jump them all up onto the screen now. And they get called different things in different jurisdictions. But generally, we've got the road safety audit there in the orange in the middle, and you can see that there's design reviews, and there should absolutely be design reviews, quality reviews, independent other designers redoing calculations and checking things. Okay, that's all happening. Now, a road safety audit sometimes jumps into a bit of that space. There's a bit of overlap. Safe system assessments are a fairly new thing, but they're doing some of the same things audit are doing. They're doing a lot of other stuff and they're presenting it in very different ways. Safety and design, the purple. Safety and design is really that, can this new thing be built safely, be maintained safely, be decommissioned safely? All right. Now that's worker safety is a real big focus of that. There's little bits of overlap again in all of these. And then you've got DDA, or Disability Discrimination Act audits or checks, where, does this meet the regulations of that act and the standard? So, can everybody of all abilities access this? The ramp grades, right? Are there tactile ground surface indicators in the right spot, aligned in the right way? Okay, some of those things may be audit related, some may not. I mean, I'm not as an auditor checking the height of handrails on a, on a step or something that's there, right? If I happen to notice it and go, oh my God, that's like way high or something, that's going to be, I might note it, but I'm not doing that. I don't know that code, and I'm not going to, that's not our job as an auditor, unless we believe it's really going to show the potential for a crash to occur. Now, I've had plenty of audits where I don't pick up things and they'll say, well, that doesn't conform to the DDA Act. And I'll say, oh, it's not my issue. I don't believe it's going to cause death or serious injury to the community. It's not to say that this is not an important thing to do. That's just not our role as auditors. Catherine.
Just a quick one, Ken, and just raised from the group. Is it possible that no audit findings are found at all in an audit?
Oh, the dream audit. The dream audit.
Absolutely.
I've done one where I've only made 2 things to note. but never nothing at all. But yeah, it could happen. That'd be great. We'd absolutely love it. Usually, usually you do find things, absolutely. But yeah, it could happen. And it's an interesting one when you put your invoice in and you've really, you've spent a long time on it. You've only come out with 2 notes, but that's, that's all part of it. So what can be audited? Well, pretty much anything that interacts with the road environment or a shared path environment can be audited. Big projects, small projects, urban, rural, construction sites, pedestrian, run-off road projects, roadworks, innovative things, existing shared paths, cycleways. The process that we're going to give you and run you through can be deployed on any of these scenarios and anything that interacts with the road environment, public or private. You can utilize this process. Now, here's a little one. I do have time, and I think this is an important one to do. Here we've got a road. You can see there it's an intersection. It's got an unsealed road on the right here. It's got a sealed road here. Okay, the project that they're planning on this is to formalize and seal this road. Okay, they're using just a stock. They're doing it all to standard. They're putting curbing in. It's upgrading everything. It's a council spending big bucks to do that, and they're going to make it look like that. And there it is. You can see it. They built it, right? Okay, you get in there as a road safety auditor. You've got the design of this, all right? What do you predict, and pop this into the chat, what do you predict the crashes that may happen, and why might they be happening when they formalize the intersection and seal it? I mean, they're just improving the thing, aren't they? Okay, but what crashes might precipitate, might be caused as a result of this? Okay. So, seeing a few things come in there, are we, Catherine?
Yeah, there's some good points there. The right angle crash has popped up a couple of times, failing to give way, higher speeds, just with a typical control cross intersection, side swipe crashes. Basically, just adhering to that high speed environment by just doing a typical cross section arrangement. Yeah. With nothing else.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'm just reading them as you're talking. It's a really good sort of analysis. It's actually the first one that came in there from Billy. Can we give a prize there? See-through effect issue. Okay, and I think that's really relevant. I mean, others are putting really great ones in, and I'm seeing that sort of similar theme, and right angle crashes and failing to give way. It's again sort of thinking about, well, what's going to change here, and why would that elevate the risk of crashes? Well, you really need to get out on site and think about this. But this is a straight through. This is the new side of it. Forget about the burnout marks, right? But this is the new side of it after it was constructed. This is what you're seeing from the other approach, okay? And what we're seeing is, again, that see-through effect, aren't we? Okay, power poles, line of trees, direct, straight through. Okay. Now, interestingly, after formalizing that, so no road safety audit was done on this job because the justification from the local government that did all of that work was we were just improving everything, and we're following the infrastructure design manual or whatever the local government use. We're just making things better. Why would we have? But the thing is that by doing that work, okay, they created a see-through effect because it now continues as road, the same color, the same line. But before, it was a very different thing that you were viewing. It was a dirt road. It was very clear that was the end of this road or the like, and so people were more aware of it. So with this, very sort of simple project has caused, and actually caused, multiple serious injuries and fatality. So, well, it was a contributing factor to those happening in the crash analysis. So what you end up doing is that this became a well-known black spot. Eventually, after sort of years and years, a roundabout was installed here, but so much death and serious injury occurred in Indraman. So what could have been done at a design stage? Well, you know, I won't get you to do it because I want to save some time here, but there's many things that could have been considered at this stage when they're building this. Okay, we could have had splitter islands added. That would have significantly helped. We could have potentially seen if we could have done an offset T, so it doesn't look straight down there. It looks at a hazard board marker there, you know, that would be good. We could have gone the roundabout from the start. Maybe they couldn't afford it, so maybe it would have been others. It could have been some different advanced warning systems. Could have been, you know, some potentially rumble strips on the approach. We could have lowered the speeds of the through figures. You know, there's a raft of things that could have been implemented to lessen this risk. Okay, so this highlights that, you know, even projects that are on the surface looking to make things absolutely better must be road safety audited. Okay, so I'm just going to give a little intro into this, and then I'm going to give time for us to give you your little assignment, and I'll catch up on any questions shortly. But when are the formal stages of a road safety audit? So in a project, right, you know, they plan the project, and then they do design, and then they construct it, and then they maintain it. Yeah, what are the stages that we could go through this audit process? So you've got the green there, which are pre-construction, and then you've got the grey, which is construction, and then you've got the orange, which are post-construction, okay? And the pre-construction, we divide up into feasibility, and then preliminary, and then detailed design. We've got one sort of during the construction that could happening, just before the ribbon's cut, a pre-opening, what we call an immediate post-opening, so it's just been opened, or it's a brownfield site, so it's, you know, really wasn't closed. And then you've got sort of this existing road thematic audit, but it's also, you know, existing roads can be called other things, road safety reviews and the like. So that early stage road safety audit, that sort of feasibility stage audit, is usually, I like to call it like the planning audit. You know, you've got big picture sort of alignments and maybe intersection forms and the like. It's this sort of stuff, and you're imagining, oh well, now how do all these people get to down here? Now where are they going to go? Oh yeah, we're adding a lane here and then an off ramp here. Is that going to be? Are they providing enough space for people to weave, or are we going to have a sort of auxiliary lane problem? And, you know, big picture thinking sort of stuff. Okay, so then your feasibility stage. When you make it a bit more sort of detailed, talking about intersection forms here, and you'd be thinking, okay, well, where are they going to go? Are they going to U-turn here? How are they going to get into the subdivision there? Are they going to have to do a U-turn up there? Is this going to encourage vehicles to go another route? And what problems is that going to cause? Early big picture sort of thinking. Then you get a bit more meat on the bone. You start to get concept preliminary designs. It may be on a survey base, it may be on an aerial base, and you're getting some more meat there, and you're starting to pick issues. What's going on here? You know, what's this little bit that they're adding here for a cyclist to prop and turn? And is that going to be an issue for swept paths of vehicles? Who knows? Or is that a good thing? And you're thinking that you've got a bit more detail. Then you get into the detailed design stage road safety audit, right? And this is where you get the full works. You get the long section, the cross sections, the drainage plan, the pavement plan, the signs and line marking plan, the lighting plan. You know, you're getting a heap. Yeah, you get 500 A3 pages of design plans, and you're expected to be able to look at all of this, imagine it all built, then identify problems and issues that road users are going to face with this new thing that's built. And that's quite an art to be able to do that. All right. And this is where you partner up if you're not somebody who immerses themselves in this sort of stuff day in, day out. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't add value to the audit. You really got to be working with people who can really help clarify that in your mind. And then you might add value in terms of, oh, well, you say, well, actually pedestrians aren't going to want to walk that way because it's easier to walk that way. Or, you know, are they going to be able to see vehicles when they're propped to turn right? And, you know, getting a good mixed audit team can be so valuable, because sometimes the people who are so good with these designs can be a bit blinkered because they're such a detailed design type person. And it's good to complement them with the bigger picture thinkers, but you really need people who understand this. And these take time. They take a long time because you've got to go through all of those plans, work through, understand them. It's funny, when I have a detailed design audit, I mean, I can work my way through these, but it takes excessive amount of time. But Jamie or Reese, who I mentioned are going to present later, they can flick through 10 pages, probably 50 pages in the time it takes me to do one. You know, to really, because they've got this, they can picture it all better. So there's you know, efficiencies with people who know a lot more about that as well. But, you know, signage plans, the payment plans, all of that sort of stuff is what you're going to get. And you get into some really nitty-gritty detail, like drivable culvert end walls. And, you know, again, picking from a design that they're using a type 1 drivable culvert end wall instead of a type 2 drivable culvert end wall. And this is a type 2, which goes, you know, that is for a pipe going that way. There's a type 1 for a pipe going that way. You get the wrong one, it's not going to be as effective. All right. These are the kind of things you want to be picking off a plan. That's a common road safety audit issue I find as well. So there's standard drawings of those different pipes for your information, and there's a little link to a snippet on that if you want a bit more information. Again, just one of the, you know, many tens of thousands of issues that might arise, or millions of issues that might arise, but one that comes up quite a bit when people are putting drivable culvert end walls in, because they just go, well, maybe they don't know there's two types, and maybe they just pop one in. Construction stage road safety audits. I'll talk more about this, but you know, when you've got that traffic management plan and traffic guidance team, understanding the risks associated with it in a broad sense and in the details, and we'll talk more about that. Pre-opening, just before the ribbon's cut, like this bit of the colder, not open yet. You're going through as an auditor, checking everything. Have anything being built that's going to cause risk? Did they get the signs and lines in the right way? Quick prize for the first person who picks an issue with this one, which would be nice to get it sort of post-opening. Mitchell, arrow direction, well done. Okay, so they've done this, and we've got this arrow lets you go right around this roundabout, and this arrow lets you go straight. We've somehow painted a forced conflict. I'll tell you how it's happened. They put the stencil around the wrong way when they painted that. That's the type of things you pick up in the post-opening, hopefully before they open the road. A colleague of mine actually was in the audit team for a massive multi-billion-dollar freeway where they line marked this on a double exit. Freeway, 2 lanes exiting, and they marked them both with the left and the straight arrow. So essentially caused that conflict on this multi-billion-dollar job. And so he was out there with the team the day before the minister was going to cut the ribbon, and everybody was doing it. You've never seen a line marking crew work quicker in their life on that one. And existing conditions, road safety audits. So you may be out there injecting advice on the existing road environment. I caution people on doing too many of these. You're just going to find thousands of issues, and it just becomes overwhelming. Use them in a targeted manner. It's best to sort of have some tool to risk rate your whole network to refine it down to some areas of particular risk, and then you can go in and audit and get details. I also like to use this as a bit of a community consultation technique. If the community is jumping up and down about the safety of an area, maybe the local government disagrees with that, or the road authority disagrees with that, the independent auditor to come in and do a report on it can be a very valuable stakeholder tool. And thematic road safety audits. There is a theme, all right? Could be a cycling audit, could be a walking audit, could be a motorcycle audit, and you'll look at particular things. You look at, though, you think about the safety of all these road users in all audits, but there's some particular things around the way you might do it, like riding the bike and having a motorcyclist involved for these thematic audits. I'll take you through those when we talk about these individual road users. Okay, so what's about to happen now is Catherine's just getting a random generator spreadsheet up and running, which is going to have all your names on it and a whole lot of topics, okay? And what we're going to get you to do is do a little research assignment on the topic we give you, okay? And the reason we want this is there are just huge numbers of areas that we wanted to talk about in this course. And we thought, the 6-month course is too much, but we want to give you an insight into little topics. And so what we're going to do is assign those to individuals, and you're going to do a little research into it, just Googling and finding stuff online. And then you're going to create whatever you want, okay? Could be a one-page fact sheet, could be a cartoon, could be a short little video, could be a TikTok, whatever you want. We want you within that to bring it back to road safety and road safety auditing, okay? But we're going to give prizes in a few sessions' time after we've looked at them and marked them for the most creative way of presenting this. I'm still waiting for the interpretive dance on one of these, but I haven't got it yet. But yeah, creative, the most technically sound and the most engaging, and you're going to win prizes on that. So I've picked just a random series of road safety topics, and we're going to randomly assign you one. We've got Danish offsets, Y intersections, stopping sight distance, short stacking, super elevation. Now, you may not know what on earth this thing is, but you're going to research into it. And you're going to create something and you're going to upload it to Moodle. So, Catherine, I'm going to stop sharing and you can share your screen. And I think you're going to have the random generator going.
Yeah, I will.
Now, this is all going to be uploaded to Moodle, okay? Now, if you have trouble uploading your assignment to Moodle, email Catherine or Emma or myself, and you can send us a Dropbox link or something like that. But here we go. Let's have a look here. And what are we going? Yeah, we can see the screen.
All right, I'm going to randomly generate.
Cool. Have a look. Hopefully, everybody sees their name on the screen there.
Yeah. Everyone's name.
Tell us when you're going to stop.
Ready and stop.
Cool. Okay. So there you go. We'll leave it there for a second. We will email this or put it into Moodle. But do have a quick look there and have a note. James, you're doing categories of road safety barriers. I think you'll be pretty good at that. And there we go. Nicholas got curbing near barriers or barrier theme there. Richard's got slip lane stand-up angles. It's a beauty, and so on and so on. So we want you to relate this back to, road safety, things about that, maybe what auditors might be looking for. Come up with something creative, do a little video or a cartoon or a fact sheet, and put that into Moodle. And actually, I might show Moodle. Or do you want to show Moodle?
I can show Moodle while I'm up. I'm sharing. Here we
go. Okay, so yep, people should. Yeah, we can see that. So you've got a quiz to do after today's session. So you see there in module 1, you can see quiz. There it is. Yep. So you click on that. You're going to have 10 questions. They're kind of similar to that poll that we had. You've got to answer those. Remember, you've got to get minimum 8 out of 10 in order to get through to round 2. One of them will be how many Wallies did you see? And you've got 3 attempts at it. And then you can see down there's the research topic. So that's where you'll be uploading that. When's it due? Click on that.
Yeah.
Oh, you've timed
log
out.
in again. Time me out. There we go.
There we go. Due Friday the 11th, 5 o'clock. All right. If you can't make that, get in contact with Catherine, Emma, and really, if you want a chance to win a prize, get it in by then. But in the end, we want you to get it in by then. But you're just basically not going to pass the course until we get that and we mark it. But yeah.
Any more
questions?
on the Moodle?
Sorry.
Any more on the Moodle? I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, just go up a bit, or maybe back. Sorry, it's gone over the hour now, so we're gonna have to stop. Don't worry about it. In there, you can see resources. You've got the guides. You've got the PDF of these notes. But I think we're gonna have to stop now because we've ticked over the hour. The recording will be available in Moodle as well if you want to relook at any of that. Otherwise, thank you, Catherine. Thanks, everybody. Keep in contact. We'll see you on Thursday for our next session.
Perfect. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.